And there you go. Welcome to the Sports Porch. Sorry about that really weird dancing we were doing earlier.
I could really hear it in my headphones. It was incredible. I love it.
I was having a little bit of trouble with the producer always has trouble. So welcome to the porch. We're in the underground porch tonight. Steve is on his Greenfield porch because, well, he's a slacker. I had a rough day.
He had a rough day.
Schwab was giving you a bunch of crap about that. But well, thanks for being here, guys. And if you're listening to us on American Busker iHeartRadio, thank you so much, American Busker iHeartRadio. iHeart has 150 million registered users, 2,000 devices, and over 260 platforms, Schwaber. That's a lot.
Woo! iHeartRadio
Yes,
coming
absolutely.
right at you. And we are thrilled and honored and privileged to be a part of the iHeartRadio family. Thank you, Nancy Hahn. Thank you, everyone at iHeartRadio.
I'm Chris. That's Steve. That's Mark. And Gary is in the house. He says, go Niners. We're going to talk about that tonight, of course. And I want to remind everybody that you can catch us on theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Thank you very much. And you can also grab us on American Busker iHeartRadio, as well as subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcast. Now that we have all of that out of the way, first thing we're going to do is talk Steelers. Of course.
Steelers.
Of course. We're going to talk Steelers. We're going to talk about the fact that Matt Canada doesn't look like he's going anywhere.
Well, he still has a job as of this moment.
What do you think?
And that job is Steelers offensive coordinator.
Yes. Well, and I got to tell you, listening to talk radio and reading, all the blogs and all of the lists and ESPN, it's like Steelers Nation wants this guy fired. Okay. And I've heard some convincing arguments, and we've made some ourselves. But I'm going to take a look at the other side of this. But Schwab, you look like you're teed up and ready to go.
Well, yeah, I wanted to bring something up because I did hear an interview with Cordell Stewart on the radio, and I thought that his answer was befuddling because he was against letting Matt Canada go. And he's basically drawing from his own experience. He said that he had something like 4 offensive coordinators in 6 years. And he said it's a lot harder than you think to switch coordinators. And his thought was, okay, so maybe if you do fire Matt Canada, are you sure what you're going to bring in is better? Now, I would be pretty sure.
Right.
But, it was just another point of view that I'm just throwing out there. That's what Cordell Stewart said. I don't know how much weight you put to a Cordell Stewart clip, but that's his thoughts.
Yeah, well, we're not going to go to Cordell Stewart, but, I see Steve smirking there, and I got it. What's on your mind, Steve?
Well, 2 things. Ben Roethlisberger actually endorsed it for the same reason, but I just think that's quarterbacks looking out for other quarterbacks, because it is harder to learn a new offense. But the offense isn't the problem. The problem is the offensive schemes. And the sooner that Kenny Pickett can learn a better scheme, the better off they'll be. In my opinion, and the only thing that I heard that I think makes more sense is Tomlin doesn't want another offensive coordinator to come in here and make the offense the showcase. He wants to have the offense the secondary means for winning games. So in that realm, I can see why he would want him to stay, because clearly anything Canada throws out there is secondary to pretty much any playoff team that I've watched last weekend and any team that we may watch tonight, because they just don't know how to run those routes where you've got maybe 3 deep guys crossing the field. They only know how to run down one side of the field and the other side of the field and throw it up, and maybe they catch it. And occasionally send the tight end across the middle. So I get it. I mean, I get what the Steelers are doing. I just don't like it.
And I'll tell you what, though, I think watching the playoff games this weekend, you got a real good example of what can happen with a quarterback with a really good offensive mind at the helm. Now, these guys, they're a little different. So Doug Peterson is the head coach. He's not the offensive coordinator, but he calls the plays. And, if you look at Trevor Lawrence with, that horrible Urban Meyer from last year, and with a guy who understands quarterbacks and offense this year, huge leap. And really even, the Buffalo Bills, right? With Brian Dable, who, groomed, Josh Allen in Buffalo. Look what he did with Daniel Jones. I mean, Daniel Jones, went from at the beginning of this year, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, to now they got to re-sign him because he looks like he can play.
Yeah, and that was a mistake on their part. But given Daniel Jones's performance, I think I would have done the same thing.
But his performance with lesser coaches.
You can always franchise him. Right. I mean, it's no big deal. It's no big deal.
But the point is
quarterback that's unproven.
But isn't Saquon Barkley a free agent?
Yeah, they
he
both
might
are.
be. I don't know, but the whole
so who are you going to franchise?
Yeah, but the whole point is
the
that
quarterback.
See what happens when you get some better offensive minds around a young quarterback.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually take the opposite side of that argument now, and it's really easy. I got to admit, I'm taking the easy way out now because it seems no. We'll get to Purdy later, but it seems to be it's a cop out. Okay, I have been on this Matt Canada train like most of Pittsburgh and Steelers Nation. Get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him. Okay, doesn't look like that's going to happen. Okay, so the reasons that it shouldn't happen: second year with Kenny Pickett, developing, give Canada a chance to develop. Look, the guy may have an attitude, but he is an offensive coordinator. As badly as the play calling was this year, I guarantee you he does know a lot more about football than the three of us. Okay,
sure,
maybe not much, but he knows a lot more. So I get it. I disagree with you, Steve, when you say that Tomlin doesn't want the offense to be the future of that team. I think he wants the offense to be much better. I know he's a defensive guy. I get it from that standpoint, but in the NFL, you don't win all the time with defense. You have to have a good defense, but if you have a horrible offense, you're still not going to win. Okay. Because, and that's been shown time and time again. So let me get a comment here. Brian says, not sure if everything is Canada's fault or if he's just being a yes man to Tomlin. I never wanted him here to begin with, but it is all his fault. Tom Johnson, Tomlin had another winning season. Anyone else think the most important thing is to win it all, not just to make the playoffs? Yeah, no, we totally believe that, you're playing the season to win it all, but you also can't win it all every year. You'd like to. So anyway, that being said, it's easy for me to say, look, it looks like we're giving Canada one more chance, and I hope it's his last chance. And I hope he comes up with like a couple different plays that have like crossing routes and mix up the defense. It sounds stupid to say, but I kind of agree that if you start throwing and Mark, you made this point in the past, maybe Kenny Pickett at 25, 26 years old, can he get much better because he's played that much football? So why not give him a little consistency? That's where I leave it.
Well, I think, the problem that I see, now look, I mean, Steve will kind of come down on, if you look at the Brock Purdy situation, okay, he's got the best defense in the league. He's got the best running back in the league. Some might even say he's got the best team in the league, right? Got great weapons. But there is one thing that's different that they're doing with Brock Purdy that, Kenny Pickett never got the advantage of, which is they basically said to Brock Purdy, you're an NFL quarterback. We're going to trust you and we're going to let you let it fly, and,
Yes.
And I think the unfortunate thing with, the Steelers, and maybe this is a little more Canada. I mean, I'm sorry, a little more Tomlin, and maybe not as much Canada because we don't really know. The whole playing the defensive game and not turning the ball over to win 20-17. That because we could make the playoffs. That really, to me, really prevented some of the growth that maybe we could have seen in Kenny Pickett this year. And we did see some growth. We saw some growth, in the fourth quarters, right? We saw these, he's got some, charisma. He's got some of that it factor. But, my concern is that we're just going to keep a leash on him. And if nothing changes, it's just going to be a very similar thing next year. That's what has me concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't say I'm hopeful or excited about it. I'm just looking for reasons to justify it in my mind so I stay engaged. Because honestly, the bottom line for me is that was the most boring offense I've seen in many, many years. And we can debate the issues and the problems with the receivers and the running back and the line. And I'm sure we'll debate them all the way through the offseason to the draft. So I'm just trying to stay positive. Looks like he's sticking around. Maybe they'll surprise us this week, but I doubt it. Any last thoughts on that before I move on here to two more things on the Steelers? No, Steve just doesn't even want to talk about it.
Well, my last thing on the Steelers is, so what do you guys think? With the Steelers' number 1 pick in this draft, do they keep it in the family with Joey Porter Jr. at cornerback, or with his declaration of the draft today, do they go Jordan Addison, wide receiver, to link him back up with Kenny P?
Let's go to the agreeable Steve.
They're both stupid moves. But they're both predictable moves because this is what the Steelers do. They draft. Well, I mean, first of all, maybe they don't like Addison because they didn't see him in the locker room this year. Like they, saw Kenny Pickett. Maybe they see him as a, carpetbagger, moving out to USC and trying to get some fame and fortune out there. And he did. I mean, and he's a really good talent. But I think the last thing the Steelers need to do is invest in another wide receiver. They've done it in too many positions in the last few years. They need to start thinking about shoring up the linebacker core or getting a stalwart center or offensive tackle instead. You're falling into the same trap that the Steelers always fall into. It's best to just, take the squeaky toy that'll make my quarterback better. Well, they don't even know, at this point, I don't even think we think that Kenny Pickett's the future at the quarterback position, but he may not be. They already have a number 1 wide receiver in Pickens. Why go get another guy that's just going to be there? They got plenty of other secondary options, including Freiermuth. So they have to go offensive line or linebacker. I do like the cornerback position, but the Steelers traditionally haven't been able to pick that position. I would hate PZ Jr. coming in and being the cornerback. Love that cornerback from Georgia. He's great, but I think he'll probably be gone before then. So I think they go offensive line. That's what I would do if I was drafting. And hey, we've got Omar Khan now in the draft room, So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I think it's going to be not as many skilled players though. But hey, they've got two picks in the first 33 picks.
Yeah, that ended up being good for them.
Yeah, so let's see what happens. But I think that would be a very bad idea.
And Luke says he agrees with you. He says O-line. I'm not a fan of the Porter situation only because we joke all the time. It becomes a family thing, and to me it's just getting out of hand.
I have to tell you though, he's a fantastic player.
Yeah, well,
I watched some of those Penn State games, and he's really, really good.
Okay, so, but Steve's got a point there. Addison, if you want to try to go down the Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase road, but Addison and Pickett, while they had, I think Addison burned his bridges when he transferred to USC.
I don't know about that. I mean, if you think about it, if I'm thinking about it from a business perspective, you're Jordan Allison, right? You lose Kenny Pickett, who's a first-round quarterback, and look, whoever your quarterback is depends on how you play a lot of the time.
Yeah, but they brought in Keaton Slovis.
Yeah, well,
he was fantastic.
And he was horrible, right?
Right.
And so basically he's like, okay, they got this Caleb Williams out in USC, and he's a Heisman potential. So why don't I just go out there for a year and continue to look good and maybe get picked in the first round? I don't think that's a problem.
I get it.
That's the way people are approaching college football these days.
So that's not true, because Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to stick around at OSU, even though he's losing his Heisman Trophy quarterback. So if you're a really good wide receiver, you can make it work no matter who's chucking you the damn ball.
But somehow I have the feeling whoever starts at Ohio State next year is going to be a Heisman Trophy candidate.
Last thing we need is another attitude like Addison coming in and thinking about himself. The last time that happened, it was Antonio Brown. That guy can go fly a kite.
There you go. So right over that edge. So, and I'm sure fly a kite wasn't the first phrase that came to your mind.
It had an F in it. It had an F in it.
Right now, the Steelers, the offensive line really did play much better as this year went along. So I'm not so sure that I would make my first pick an offensive lineman, unless like the absolute best O-line guy. Listen, they need a linebacker, man.
I got a term for you. Fool's gold. Fool's gold. They looked good at the end of the year, and they were also playing a lot of crappy teams.
I know, I've heard that argument too, but they're still NFL teams.
Yeah,
they're still NFL teams.
I agree with Mark on this one. I think they need to go offensive line for that reason. They need to get a first round talent in there. But I do like the fact that the offensive line did get better. I would just rather prefer one of these guys to be a backup to a better offensive lineman. That's all.
Okay, so Luke says, what about trading away the first pick for more stock?
Oh no, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah,
well, you'd only do it if you're going to like trade back a few spots to get like another second,
right?
Or another third or something.
Yeah,
right.
Good point, Mark. That's the only reason you do it. Mm-hmm.
Well, they got to replace Bush, which is not hard to do, but it's also not easy to do because it sounds like he doesn't even want to stick around, and the fans are tired of his lackluster play anyway. And there's talk, of course, and it's really premature. Trumaine Edmonds. Another brother, but a pretty good player. So, I think they need to look at that linebacker spot because they do have a decent defensive line. They've got some good edge rushers. They've got a quality safety in Minkah Fitzpatrick. They've got good corners, serviceable good corners. I would keep Kazi around. They need that linebacking core, the interior of that linebacking core. They need a playmaker in there. And he doesn't have to be fantastic. He just has to be above average, and it changes the landscape of that defense. So if you can find that playmaker in those first two picks, because they have the 16th or 17th pick and then the very first pick in the second round, I say go for it. I mean, what do you have to lose? That's what you did with Bush. You can't do much worse. So that's what I think there. All right. That's our Steelers news. Now, of course, we got to do something here. We got to bring this up because we do, believe it or not, since we're based in Pittsburgh, we're a Pittsburgh show. We do have a baseball team here.
You do?
What?
And
yeah.
By the way, what's our playoff records for the NFL?
Oh, you know what? I just totally reversed that. But we're doing. Look, I'm going to take control here. We're going to get this out of the way
because we're on. Get it out of the way. Get it out of the way.
We're going to get it out of the way. Okay. Andrew McCutchen comes back to the Pirates, and if you want to catch my most recent blog post on this on the porcheslive.com, I'm going to put in the comments right now.
Cutch.
The porcheslive.com. Go ahead and click that link to read my take on it. I'm basically going to give you my take on it right now. Great. Listen, so many platitudes. Okay.
Platitudes.
Platitudes. It's great to see Andrew McCutchen back in Pittsburgh. He's such a community guy. I can't wait to see him in a Pittsburgh uniform. the opening day is going to be sold out. It's a great thing for the Pirates. That's complete garbage, okay? First of all, McCutchen was a great player. That's the key, was a great player. Second, McCutchen was a good teammate and a good community guy. There's lots of them. We focus so much on the bad boys. Look, there's lots of them, but Cutch was a good guy. The Pirates were in the playoffs 10 years ago, 3 years in a row, and since then they've been garbage. Cutch moved on, and he should have, because he saw the writing on the wall, and they weren't going to sign him anyway. He had a few good years in Philly and Milwaukee, and where else?
San
Francisco.
Okay, this has nothing to do with bringing back Andrew McCutchen. Nothing to do with that. Do you think they're going to make more than $5 million from all the soppy Pittsburgh Pirates fans that decide to go to the ballpark to see Cutch play again? Because while he had a great career here, they did nothing. They did nothing. They couldn't make it past the first round of the playoffs, and then they disbanded the team. So I wrote in my article, will I go see Cutch play? Will I go to a Pirates game this year to see McCutchen? Yeah, I'll probably go to one. Will I go to more than one? Absolutely not. Unless they're like, in first place, which I find to be highly doubtful. Right. So why are we not? Look, this is a great PR move by Nutting.
Right.
It's a great PR move because all we're talking about now is Cutch is back and not how shitty the Pirates are and how shitty the organization is and how they're not going to do anything. But honestly, if you're a Pirates fan, you're getting ripped off. You're getting ripped off.
It's an insult to the smart Pirate
right.
fans.
No, and no disrespect to Andrew McCutchen at all. It's about the organization. You're with me on that, Steve, aren't you?
1,000%.
Thank you.
We've been getting ripped off from Andrew Nutting or whatever the heck this
Bob
guy's
Nutting.
name is. Mr. Nutting,
Bob Nutmeg.
Mr. Nutting, since he's bought the place. The best thing he did was he's hired a great architectural firm to make a fantastic building. But he managed to rip off the city and getting that made, passing a tax that nobody ever wanted to get it made. And now he lives there basically rent-free with the crappiest team this city has ever seen.
Right.
So don't even get me started on that guy.
Yep.
But the reality is it is a great PR move because he will get more people in the seats, but they still will lose near 100 games.
Right.
It doesn't make them any better of a franchise. In fact, nobody's been talking about, the fact that Brian Reynolds wants out of here, the guy who actually has all the talent on the team. And they probably will get rid of him because why not? They can get more draft picks and a promise of a new future again. How many new futures can this franchise have until people start to realize the guy who's writing the checks, who is a billionaire, by the way, and can write more checks if he wanted. We're not a small market team in the Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, you can spend as much money as you want. It doesn't matter. Just ask the Philadelphia Phillies. How did they get to be the second best team in the major leagues? They spent $450 million, and that got them there. And you know what? They probably made $350 million of it back in revenue and everything that happened when they made their World Series run. So it's good business to have a good team, but Nutting is the exact opposite of that. He will take the cheapest, lowest road possible to get as many seats, people in the seats as possible, just so he can break even. And eventually he's going to sell the team for $750 million and make his $500 million and leave town and forget we ever existed. The sooner he does that, the better.
I agree. Okay, let's move on here now that we've blown that out. I'm sure we'll have more to say about that in the future.
I'm very depressed.
Mark is depressed. So, playoffs.
Well, let's talk about your record from last week.
Playoffs. All right, we've been calling the playoffs, and rather than go down the whole list, I will just say that the surprise pick of last week was Mark taking the Jags over the Chargers.
And I knew we had them where we wanted them when we were down 27-0.
And Mark ends up 5-0. Steve and Chris are 3-2. Now we still have tonight's game, which Steve took the Cowboys and Mark and I took Tom Brady and the Bucks. I'll add that to the records next week. We'll flip it up there.
All right.
But what we want to do now is we want to talk about the playoffs. This is round 2 of the NFL playoffs. What's your pick? Let's start now with Saturday. And I got a little twist for us here. Mark has to go first. Jags at the Chiefs.
That's going to be the Chiefs.
It's going to be the Chiefs. I'm not even waiting. This is
I so desperately want to pick the Jags. Just so, it's the Chiefs. I can't be a dumbass. All right, Saturday, the G-Men at the Eagles. This is go ahead, Schwaber. I'll tell you what I think afterwards.
It'll be the Birds.
Yeah, we already knew that. Go ahead, Steve.
Well, am I getting any points?
Nope. It's win or loss.
Nah, come on. We're not playing that game here.
Well, I mean, I should get some points. I was in last place, so there should be a handicap here.
Yeah. Well, there is a handicap, but you're not getting any points for it.
If you gave me 3 points, I would take the Giants, but I think the Eagles squeak it out.
All right, and only because Mark and I were reliving the past and our famous and epic Redskins-Eagles battles from the college days, I'm going with the Giants just to make it
nice.
By the way, just so you know, the laziest report of any analyst out there is the one who says it's hard to beat a team 3 times in a season. It's actually not hard. It's actually the win percentage of the team that is 2-0 is .667. So
thanks for that.
Pretty much you win 2, you win the 3rd. Okay,
so Sunday we got Bengals at the Bills, Schwaber.
Oh, it's a tough one. I'm going to go Bills. Bills just continue to shock you all year, being that in our mind they're so good. How on earth could they have been behind Miami in the second half? That's just like impossible. That team couldn't do anything, the Dolphins. But Josh Allen, as great as he is, he likes to throw interceptions as well. And the Bengals, what a bad performance against the Ravens. I mean, geez, if they would have just handed the ball to J.K. Dobbins, maybe we're talking about the Ravens playing in this game. Mm-hmm. Really, the Bengals just escaped by the skin of their teeth, and they did not look ready for the game. So even though the Bengals had been coming on, I think I'm going to stick with the Bills here in this one.
All right, Steve.
I like the Bills also. I don't have any reason, but the only thing that I think is all that emotion around Hamlin's, heart attack on the field. I think it's behind them now. I think they're going to start focusing more on actual football. I don't actually think they were ready to play that game against Miami. I think there was just too much emotion still lingering in the air. The fact that the Bengals are coming back to Buffalo where the game actually happened and that heart attack happened on the field could be a little bit of a PTSD for the Bills, but I think they'll rebound quickly, and I think they'll win handedly.
I'm going with the Bengals because Joe Burrow is the man, and
Joe Cool.
And honestly, though, I look at that game that the Bills played against Miami. I know it's a division game. Miami always plays them tough. It's kind of like when the Browns completely suck and the Steelers are good. It can always be a close game. But I'm just telling you, for that Miami team in all the disarray to almost beat the Bills, to me, that signals Josh Allen is a great quarterback. He's got a lot of talent. He should win a Super Bowl in his career, but he seems to bite himself in the ass all the time. And against the Bengals, different team, different scenario, out to prove last year wasn't a fluke. I'm going with the Bengals. Okay, so Problem we got tonight is it's either going to be the Buccaneers or the Cowboys at the 49ers. So I'm going to lay this out to you before we move on to our last segment for the evening. Do you want to do a what if, or do you want to wait until Monday of next week to pick that? Oh, no, we can't. It's on a Sunday. Okay.
We can do a what if. It'll just be winner versus 49ers.
Okay. So no. Here's the way
pick
we'll
them
do
both.
it. If the Cowboys are playing the 49ers, who wins?
49ers.
Okay.
That's easy. The Cowboys.
Steve. If the Buccaneers, I say the 49ers. If the Buccaneers are playing the 49ers, who wins?
49ers.
So
The 49ers.
Steve. I say the 49ers too. Okay, so there's really only one difference, and that's if the Cowboys win, Steve picks the Cowboys. He gets a win, we get losses.
He believes in them.
Okay.
I already picked them to win, so I know they're winning.
All right, well, and you should know. Okay. I did that twice.
Okay, so that was nice.
All right, thank you very much. And we got a comment coming in here from Richard. And yes, you did miss the Bucko talk, Richard. Look, you got to start setting an alarm for this. All right.
Yep.
On these things right here, you can set an alarm, Richard. Okay.
And
I'm tired of reminding you.
You can set yourself up for notifications.
Yes, that too. That's pretty much the point I'm trying to make here. So yeah, go back and watch it. Okay, so now
pretty depressing talk, Richard. I don't think you'll enjoy it very much.
Yeah, you're right. All right, so now we're going to move on to something that we by the way, if you're listening to us on American Busker, iHeartRadio, thank you for doing that. You can always catch the podcast, the Sports Podcast, on iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get your podcast. Please, I encourage you, we ask you a favor, subscribe or follow the podcast and click the notifications so you know when we're on. And now we are going to move on to Hockey Jesus. Now, this is big. This is big because we are halfway through the season. And Hockey Jesus just actually has posted his midseason or recorded his midseason spectacular podcast. Now, he called it a spectacular, and I'm sure it is spectacular. So I'm going to put that up there right now. If you want to follow this link in the comments, that will take you right to the Hockey Jesus midseason Penguins spectacular. But before we go, Steve, we want to capture a little bit of this. So give us an idea, Hockey Jesus, on some of the things you touched on. And they do play tonight. What's the score right now? What's the update?
We're all tied up at once in the second period. But we did get the first goal. We did get the first goal. And if you listen to the midseason spectacular, you will know that getting the first goal is very important for the Penguins. They have a much better record when they get the first goal. So at least they're off to a good start with the fact that they did get the first goal. It is 1-1, but it looks like the penalty kill let us down. Anaheim got a goal. But here are the keys, I think, to a better second half for the Penguins. The first half was really kind of the tale of three seasons in a row, and I go into detail about what that is, how they kind of had a bad start, a good start, a bad start, a better middle, and then a terrible, last 10 games. So I think the key to the Penguins in the future will be faster starts, and tonight they did get the first goal, so I think that's good. I think that if they get healthy, clearly that's going to be important. Missing Letang has been a big deal, but even when Letang's been playing, he's only played 29 of the 42 games that they've played so far. But he is a -12, and that's not good when you have your number one defenseman at such a big negative number. That means that things are not going good at the blue line. And I think part of that is the fact that Dumoulin initially at the beginning of the season was playing so terrible, and they had to get him off of that line. He's been much better since Pettersson's been up there, and I expect that to continue when he gets back. But as far as Bluger goes, Bluger update. The Bluger update is Bluger missed it. Bluger update. He already hit it with the spectacular. I liked it. I liked it better for the spectacular. The problem with Bluger is he's not scoring any goals, Mark. He needs to get a couple goals in the net. And that's what Teddy needs to do. I have a feeling you probably won't get any in the net until Archibald and his buddy Ryan Paling are back on the fourth line with him.
Hockey goals, Steve, though, they come in bunches.
Yeah, but one is not a bunch.
One would be too. One would also be too few.
Yeah. Well, unless you're talking about one bunch of bananas. Right.
That was
Brian. Actually, bring up Brian's comment about the GM. You bring up an interesting. I didn't talk about Ron Hextall, the GM. Basically last year he made all the moves he could make. He signed all these guys to long-term contracts. They're basically locked in for 2, 3, 5 years. And one, they're guaranteed contracts. Two, a lot of them have no movement clause, so they really can't trade a lot of the guys that have the high salary. So even if they did get a new GM, the new GM couldn't really do anything. So
I was thinking about this the other day. The only guy that you could potentially trade would maybe be Brian Rust, but he's got a big contract. And would you even get enough back in return? Maybe a defenseman?
Well, the problem with Rust is he also has a no movement clause. I think he has to pick like 10 teams that he would be willing to go to. So, so you're right. I mean, and actually the guy they probably would trade would be Zucker, because, he's in the last year of his contract. But he's the guy who's playing the best right now. In fact, he has the goal tonight. And he's the only guy who runs around and actually hits people and plays with a little bit of enthusiasm for the game. So I don't think that's a guy they want to get rid of. I think they want to get more guys like that. So, it's difficult when you have so many guys signed these long-term contracts. That's the thing. They actually tried to trade Pettersson, one of the defensemen, in the beginning of the season after they signed him. And I'm glad they didn't. They're stuck. They're stuck where they are. I don't think you'll probably even see them make moves at the trade deadline, but we'll save that talk for February. Once March 1st comes around, then the trade deadline comes around. Hopefully they won't have to make a move. The big deal right now is Tristan Jarry being out, and they're having to play DeSmith every night, who's been playing okay. And Toharski is not a very good backup. But, once again, he's a veteran goalie. He's been around the league. So their goalie play is not the problem. Their problem is they're just not scoring enough goals against good team. And when you download that and you check out my 20 minutes of analysis, you'll see the solution to that. I'm not going to give it up right now.
Ooh. Okay, so everybody, after every are we going to have an update tonight after the game?
Oh, but of course. After every game, you get an update.
Working overtime. Working overtime. I love it. So remember, after every single Pens game, Hockey Jesus gives his update on the podcast on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you get your podcasts. And as soon as you've done this, my advice to you is to go to the iHeartRadio app and pick up the Hockey Jesus Mid-Season Spectacular. It's already been dropped. You can get it at theporcheslive.com or anywhere you get your podcasts. We got one more comment in here.
Also in Espanol, Hockey Jesus.
All right, guys. Well, listen, want to thank you for listening if you are on American Busker iHeartRadio. And remember, you can subscribe to the Sports Porch podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. And we're grateful you are here. We will see you next week. And that's about it, guys.
All righty.
All right. Another great show, guys.
There you go. He's ready. Let's get out of here.